Wish I had kept that wolf mask. Wonder if I did. Oh, I think I did. Should have brought it. Ready?
Yeah, right.
Welcome back to the show about the show. Before we show the show, I'm Tim Muza. We're talking about Around the World with Taylor Jackson, presented by Nikon. And please welcome our one and only guest, Taylor Jackson, for the episode, everybody. Taylor Jackson. Come on over here. Thanks, man. Take a seat. Take a seat. Great to see you. Good to see you
too. It's been so long.
It's been like 20 minutes. So we're talking about Paris today. The Paris episode. Not Paris, Ontario. Paris, France.
Wow.
How did we get there?
We went there on it. The airplane landed, and then we got in a car, and we filmed hundreds of hours of moving footage from the side of that car and never used any of it, I don't think.
Right.
So yeah, if we need to do another episodes, it's just all rolling footage from the side of an Uber in Paris. We got it.
Love it.
We got that episode.
Dangerous streets in Paris.
Yeah.
Be careful. Look both ways. Wolves. Tell me about wolves.
You are the wolf, man. I guess we planned this going in that we wanted to open with a Canadian werewolf in Paris. So you wore a full Canadian tuxedo, which is jean. Do you have a jean shirt?
I don't think I have a jean shirt, no.
Okay, well, it was jean everything, jean print everything, denim everything, Canadian tuxedo.
Right.
Which I think nobody really kind of put
Nobody
that
got
together
that.
now.
That's fine.
But it's still a wolf in Paris.
Yeah.
As put together with audio, it sounds great. As just the raw footage, it's very ridiculous. Just want to go for like a happy stroll?
It's very silly, yeah. Speaking of silly ideas and creations and thoughts, creativity was kind of the thesis of this episode. It's kind of our sticking points. We evolved everything from the episode, from the idea of creativity. It's a very creative town. Tell me how that played into the episode.
I think it was something that I wanted to talk about for a little while now, that I never really had a platform for it. And I feel like with all these episodes, they were each about a specific thing. So I figured it was important to talk about creativity and how a little bit of that creativity, I think, gets drained out of you in school, that you begin as a super creative human being and you're really pushed into arts. And then at some point, it's like, no, you got to find a job now. And you're like, oh, can I be a photographer? It's like, no, that's not a real job. You got to be an accountant, or you got to be an engineer, or something that has a specific path.
Right.
And I feel like I just wanted to talk about that. It might have been a little too heavy for a happy photography show. No. We also didn't realize the time we were going to be releasing this when we were filming it. We were like, yeah, this is going to be good. And then we released it into a new world situation that was already pretty stressful for a lot of people. And to put like 10 heavy topics on people, maybe the wrong time,
To lighten things up a bit, let's talk about cheese. You're a fan of cheese.
This was like, yeah, we stayed on a boat, Tim.
We did also stay on a boat. We won't jump around, but let's talk about bread and cheese and food. Because if it's not known by anyone, and it should be at this point, you love food. Is that correct?
It's correct, yes. You've done your research. Yeah, I don't know why. Why did we want to do cheese? I was basically kind of like blocking this out, that we need to do kind of a minute of photography, maybe a minute of something heavier, and then we were like, we need something that's funny. So you kind of have to checkerboard the funny stuff in, otherwise it just like, it becomes too much of kind of the same.
Yeah. And
we're looking at like a 10 to 12 minute episode, and I want each section to be about a minute and a half, so that it keeps moving.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, let's go get cheese.
Cheese is good for pace.
Yeah.
In life and in video. Tell me a little bit about French onion soup. You have a love affair with French onion soup, Taylor. What's that
all
about?
Around the world, man. And then we're finally in Paris. And I did have, I'm going to say, one of the best French onion soups of my life. It was on the rooftop in the rain. Any time that we attempted to go shoot anything landscape, it was just rain or just bad weather. Yeah. And then Richard and Riley showed up and everything was beautiful.
They're friends from Kitchener, Ontario, where we live, Waterloo, Ontario. And yeah, they were great. They were great sports. They walked around with us. We spent a lot of time with them. We spent some time interviewing notable creatives in the city itself. Tell me about that.
That was really cool. It was awesome that Richard and Riley flew in, and they took the red eye in. They landed, and we met them at the hotel. We went out and shot. So the schedule was very tight. And yeah, like the interviews, I feel like it was, again, a great excuse just to meet up with people that actually live there. I feel like it creates a much different travel experience for you to actually kind of interact with people that actually live there, rather than just kind of the tourists, like, oh, like we can go find our way around. We got iPhones, we got maps, like, but to actually talk to people and be like, hey, where should we go get lunch? Simple things like that. It's really great to have that perspective, I think.
Totally. Anything special about this episode you want people to take away from? Anything about the city of Paris that you want people to kind of experience?
I don't know how much of the city we actually experienced. We were only there for 2 days. We stayed on a boat, we talked to some people, we did some photos, and then we left. So I think it was too short. But as far as production schedule goes, like, we needed to create a lot of content in a pretty tight window. But yeah, I think it's definitely, the more time you can have in Paris and the more you can actually relax and to turn your brain off and kind of do nothing and to sit at a cafe, I feel like that is kind of the thing that you want to do. Rather than dropping in for 2 days to just pound out a bunch of content and leave to Iceland.
Don't do what we did. Out of a possible 5 Eiffel Towers, how many Eiffel Towers do you give the city of Paris as a travel destination?
It's probably one of the most popular. I would say, like, London is maybe one of the most popular. Paris, probably right next to it. I would say it depends on how you do it. I think for this trip, we didn't do it correctly, and this is definitely like maybe a 7 out of 10 Eiffel Towers. But if you have a week, you have 2 weeks, you have a month to go and relax and just to live life there, I feel like that's when it's a 10 out of 10 Eiffel Towers.
Perfect. That's all the time we have for the show. About the show, before the show, can we roll the show?
When we're kids, we're very creative, but the school system is designed to transform us from a creative into a compliant worker. You'll spend the rest of your life relearning how to be truly creative. I first came to Paris because of Hemingway's writing. In the 1920s, he worked here as a writer and a foreign correspondent for the Toronto Star. During those years, his circle of friends included some of the greatest creatives ever to live. F. Scott Fitzgerald, James Joyce, Gertrude Stein, Ezra Pound, Picasso. Everyone was doing great work. The competition was fierce, but friendly. It kept everyone motivated.
Disturbing the peace with some peace of mind. Sleeping in jeans, I'ma need a night. OD on the cheap advice. OC on the cheapest flight. Lately I've been on the move trying to get to something. But I told her I've been running just to see the sights, see the lights, and they're not my type. So we chill with a brother if it's ice all white, but it's not. Am I living life in a box? Tell if it's a crisis or not. I hate coming off too normal, but I could use a wife and a dog and a job and a white fence off where the white kids walk. Well, have I been lost? Don't know where the days went. I spent a lot of nights in a blur, and I bet it's been a few too many trying to make it. And I haven't yet, yeah. We had to bet. I'm only here, yeah. You know. But if you don't like this music, then don't be listening to it, you know. I'm just a dude that you know, or something similar. If you don't keep it real, can you go somewhere but here? Cause you know we're only losing control, I say if you don't like this music, you don't be listening to it, you know. I'm just a dude that you know, or something similar. If you don't keep it real, then you go somewhere but here, cause you know we're only losing control just for a minute. Oh.
And what do you love most about Paris?
Cheese, bread.
Grew up in San Francisco, came to Paris with that generic romance, Parisian romance story. I met a Frenchman, fell in love, followed him to Paris, and I think it's 23 years of marriage later, all's good.
Growing up, did you ever dream of moving to Paris? Was this the thing, or did this just...
My husband and I grew up in rural New York, so we would never have been able to guess or even probably dream as young children that we'd end up in Paris.
How is it different than the US as far as just terms of living?
It's so different. I feel like it's changed a lot since I've moved here, but 10 years ago I really felt like I was living back like 20 years. Things are behind, things aren't as efficient. But at the same time, people have this concept of really enjoying themselves. What they say in French is le joie de vivre. So my English accent.
So it's not necessarily a lack of efficiency. It's just that it's intentionally inefficient. That you want to sit here and have your coffee at the cafe and not be constantly in search of what's next.
That's a good way to put it. It's not the American grab a Starbucks and coffee to go, because it's just like, what's the point? Like, when are you enjoying that coffee? It's like, no, I'm going to take that moment, even at lunch, for example. Intentionally carve out that moment to like have it be a moment, and they conserve it. And there's something charming about it. Even like, as frustrating it is that shops and things aren't open on Sundays. I mean, it's getting a bit better. It's still like, no, Sunday is just, it's a day off. You know, for our kids to be going to the Musée d'Orsay or to the Louvre for their field trips, like, what an incredible opportunity. I think back to the experience my children had of kindergarten, and they looked at famous, like amazing paintings every morning with their teacher. And they would put like two up against each other and talk about the symmetry and the contrast and the style, and then like build in the mythology. And I did not do that in kindergarten.
So I would like to revise this episode's opening statement. Can I do that? I think we can do that. Not every country's school system exists simply to create compliant workers, though this is an element and it's kind of how society works. The original opening statement came from my personal bias growing up in the Canadian public schooling system, which is very similar to our brother from the South, the United States. As Michelle spoke to, her kids in Paris are exposed to the best artists of all time as part of kindergarten. When great taste is ingrained in you in such an early age, you will naturally grow up creating a higher standard of work, as well as holding yourself accountable to that higher standard of work.
Do you think everyone is creative? It's kind of like, do you think everyone is funny? I don't think everyone is creative. I think we all have our abilities. I think that you can hone those abilities, and some people are gifted and some people really have to work at it.
Do you consider yourself a particularly creative individual in any aspect of the realm of creativity?
Yeah, I would have to say business creative.
There are a lot of levels to creativity, from the initial concept and vision to the actual capture to the business and marketing side. Everyone will find their strengths in a different place, and if they bring you happiness and enjoyment, it's worth staying on that road to see where it leads. I am a firm believer in doubling down on your strengths and enjoyment and outsourcing your weaknesses to someone that can just do them better than you. We're here today at the Apple Store in Paris. The Apple Store has a pool. You can go for a swim before buying your Apple products if you want. And with me today I have the Nikon 85mm S lens, as well as my Nikon Z6. If you ever want a tourist location kind of all to yourself, just wake up earlier than everyone else, because nobody gets here until like 10 in the morning. So right now we're gonna go do some photos and get the place to ourselves. To become more creative means to forget your past conditioning. To begin to think like your true self again. To embrace your inner second grader with the artistic taste that you've developed since then. To create and to understand what is worth keeping, why it is worth keeping, what is worth improving on, and what to do next. To not be creative for the sake of creativity, but because it can be new and interesting again. These streets have always been and will forever be interesting. They will always attract an adventurer, somebody that wants to understand more about life, that wants to slow down and understand what is truly valuable. The history and creativity runs deep here, and while there is no direct roadmap to becoming more creative, my advice is this. True creativity happens when you stop thinking, when you exist in a moment without weight. For me, travel is the best way to turn off, to stop thinking, to find my true self, and to recharge. I always come up with my best ideas when I'm somewhere unfamiliar. Live, explore, and do something interesting. See you next time.